Welcome back to another season, another episode of Black Tea. We are the podcast interview series that is all about Black women in advertising. I am Michelle Lawrence, your host, tried and true, and I'm so excited to be here today with Tara DeVoe. Welcome, Tara.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
So excited to have you. Please tell the people what you do and where you're based.
I am CEO of Burrell Communications Group. Burrell is based in Chicago. And so I spend half of my time in Chicago, half of my time in LA. And I know it doesn't add up, but half of my time in New York because that's where I'm from.
It never adds up to just 100%. It's
no. Yes.
You said two really huge things just in your intro. CEO, which
Yes.
we don't get a lot of Black women CEOs of advertising agencies, so huge. But then also you said Burrell, which is the OG, the legacy, the kind of one of those names that we all know as sort of have been holding it down for our culture since the beginning of its infancy. So I would really love to know what it's like being at the helm of a company restructuring, especially like a legacy company like Burrell.
Yeah, it's awe-inspiring, to be honest with you. I studied advertising in college and so learned about Tom Burrell, when I was 18, 19 years old. And so the idea that I would not be in this business were it not for him,
Yeah.
and certainly wouldn't have been successful in this business were it not for him challenging advertisers, and then in turn advertisers challenging their agencies to give different kinds of people a chance. So knowing all of that, the idea that I am now running the company that he founded is awe-inspiring, and it's amazing. And I am very excited, and I hold a lot of responsibility to him, to the culture, to our community, and I don't take it lightly.
Whew, yeah, that is a really big full circle moment. But you're not new to the C-suite. You have been C-suiting it up since 2017. So was it always the goal, like I'm gonna be, in those executive positions, I'm like all about that tippity top, or were you hesitant about entering upper management, upper leadership? And then also talk a little bit about what is the significance of that kind of representation for you?
I don't think it was always the goal. And in fact, I know it wasn't always the goal. I think that I have kind of curiosity has guided my career.
Yeah.
And so I've just gone where I was curious. And I spent the beginning of my career, I started at Y&R. I was working many, many years ago, pre agency networks. And so I was working very much in traditional advertising, television, print, radio, and when it was radio, not audio. And so I then moved, and I was working with a lot of brands. I was very interested in entertainment, always have been. Had the chance to work on Showtime when I was at Y&R, and we did all of the boxing communication for Showtime Boxing when Mike Tyson was really the kind of lead there and was a world champion. And I just decided, like, oh, entertainment's really interesting to me. So then I moved into the entertainment space and started working on a television network, two of them, actually, Turner and then Oxygen. And at Oxygen, I got the chance to start to work in digital for the first time, and it was my job to turn what was happening on the network on television into interesting digital content, and so I did that, and I had never worked in web, on websites before, and now managing teams of people who that's been the majority of what they've been doing, and it was really just curiosity, a desire to kind of expand my skill set and grow. So I never had I want that guy's job, but it certainly was always that guy, right? And that white guy. So I think that as far as what's your second part of your question, and what is meaningful to me is that now there are people who can look at me and say, "Oh, I want her job." And I want that, yes, come for it. So I think that is, I hope to be inspirational, and I hope to be motivating to other people.
Yes, I love that. Well, we are rooting for you. The Black Tea fam is behind you and so excited about
Thank you.
it's a huge, huge, huge deal. So super pumped for you and for the industry to welcome and maybe just help that little tiny sliver of percentage tick up just like that much more in terms of
Right.
representation in this industry. Since you have such a storied career in advertising, I would love to know your from your bird's eye perspective, considering how things were when you started, how things are now. Have you seen a shift in the advertising industry's environment for Black women all these years since your career start? And if so, has it been for the better, for the worse, or not really that different?
I mean, for me, it's been better. So I can speak from my experience, and then I can speak from the experience of the people that I have led throughout my career. And so, from my experience, it has been um, it is tremendously better. It is. I remember when I first started at BBDO, and this was, I mean, it was in the 2000s, probably 2007. And my first day there, I'm coming in. Okay, I'm just starting. It's like, oh, and it was a Black receptionist who assumed that I was coming in as the receptionist or someone in the admin staff, and I was coming in as a senior executive, senior account person. And so it was very different. It wasn't anyone else like me, not a Black woman. The first couple of months there were tough. It was me trying to figure out, how do I fit into this environment? And then I really decided, well, I'm going to just be me. And if it doesn't work, I'll give it a few months and we'll see. And I was there for 7 years. So I think that it is, for me, I've managed to maneuver and figure out how I can stay my best self in environments where people don't necessarily know any other Black people.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, I mean, this is in New York. A lot of advertising people kind of come in on Metro North, and they live in Connecticut and or Jersey even, and they don't really experience life with, they don't have Black people that are close to them. I'm not just representing myself. I've also felt like I was representing my community in the eyes of these folks, and wanted to make sure that I was bringing the culture. I wasn't just kind of trying to create white face. And so my experience has been great. I have led people who have come to me and said, I've never had a Black boss. I've never had, a Black female boss. And so for them, some of them have had really kind of shitty experiences, and have felt marginalized, and then felt seen. I think the expectations that a lot of particularly younger people have now, they have higher expectations for how they're going to be treated than I had. I didn't expect much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they expect everything, as well they should. And so their experiences are definitely very different than their lens through which they're viewing their experience is very different than how I viewed my experience.
I got my advertising industry start in Boston, so I definitely identify feeling like the only one and having to represent the entire culture to your community. So that was tough. But yeah, I don't think I had the bravery, the tenacity to sort of bust on the scene, being my whole self the way that I'm seeing the youth do now, and it's very inspiring.
One clarification, I did not say bringing myself or bringing my whole self. I said bringing my best self. And I think that is that is something that we talk about all the time at Burrell, because particularly I think, and in a Black owned, environment, there is a level of like, we're at the cookout, and we are still in a business environment, and there's accountability, and there's professionalism, and all of those things. And so I want everyone to bring their best self, and I think it's to the benefit of to all of us, right? So that's the difference.
I want to spend a second on that though, because I think that's so key. I think a lot of time, because we aren't used to being in professional environments filled with people who look like us, when we get there, you kind of want to relax and feel like, oh, I'm amongst family. It's family. We're
Yes.
family. And I think
Yes.
that's a good reminder that we are still not family. Like,
Right.
still
Right.
coworkers. We need
And
to hold each other down professionally. That's a big point.
absolutely. And I want people to feel more comfortable than they have ever felt in another environment. I want them to feel more supported than they'd ever felt in another environment. And but I also have extremely high expectations.
Yeah.
And so I have high expectations of myself. I have high expectations of any environment that I put myself in. And I've high expectations of the teams that I lead. I've always had that. And so I think that, you know, bringing your best self is probably would be my edit to this whole, you know, bringing your whole self to work.
How do we get more folks kind of breaking through that upper or middle management sort of kind of ceiling, I want to say, you know, what has been helpful for you, or even things that you've seen that have really, that could maybe help, you know, folks that are feeling kind of stuck at that level?
To break through that middle management layer, you need to find environments that are going to invest in your training.
Mm.
I think that when I started growing up in this business, training was just, you know, no one expected just on the job training. I started as an admin. When I went from admin into becoming an account coordinator, I went through an account coordinator training program. When I was promoted from account coordinator to assistant AE, I went through a assistant AE training program. That was absolutely phenomenal. When I went to BBO and was a kind of mid to senior executive, they sent me to BBO University, where I was working with, you know, folks globally around the network on problem solving. They sent me to Babson College to do marketing case studies and you know, spend 3 days just kind of evaluating and digging into successful marketing cases. It was like, you know, a mini B school. And so I found environments that, and sometimes I just stumbled upon them, and sometimes it was very purposeful, that invested in me and my training. And so I think that identifying, you know, lots of people are like, is the salary right? Is the title right? And those things can be important, but if you're not being invested in that company, if you're not getting coaching, and then, you know, are they really focused on you? Do they see you as, you know, someone with potential? And so I would say that I would seek out those environments, and I have done that within the context of the places where I've worked, and then I've also invested in myself and done personal coaching, and visioning, and really kind of thinking about and where I am, where I want to go next, and what are the steps that I need to take to get there.
That is so good. Takes note to ask about that in the next one-on-one with Boss. No, that is so key, because I don't think that there are so many training programs these days. People are expecting ready to plug in out of the box, if you will. And I think that there is, you know, some things can be, you can improve if you're just given that guidance. So I think that is huge.
Absolutely.
What do you consider to be the marker of success? What will be sort of like, I did it. This is it.
I think there are few markers of success. I think the business is very different than it was in 1971 when Burrell was founded. The world is very different. And we lived in a very bifurcated world. It was black, white, you know, and other, right? Now identity is so instrumental to how we see people, how we see each other. And for me, success looks like the elimination of general market as a term.
Yes.
And that we are credited, you know, for that, or at least feel like we are a strong proponent of that. the quote unquote general market is multicultural. And so everything is multicultural marketing. Every brand should be, and is, whether they realize they are or not, is a multicultural marketer. And so I think for me, that kind of public consciousness is I think also, for us at Burrell, we've done a lot of work on visioning for us and where we want to go in this next phase of our existence. And for us, it has always started with Black, and it always will continue to start with Black, but there is a recognition that Black people lead culture, whether you're talking about art, whether you're talking about music, whether you're talking about fashion, any cultural kind of markers are led by Black folks. And so in our mind, Burrell will always start with Black, but that gives us permission to play anywhere because we are playing anywhere. And so the idea that a brand could come to us because they want to speak to directly and uniquely to the Black consumer, we have a lot of those clients. They are our kind of people. But we also have clients that say, we know that Black culture drives our business. Black culture drives all culture. And so why aren't we talking to a Black agency, a historically white agency, or we should be talking to everyone. And I want to start being, to me, a marker of success is we're in a pitch with, 72 and Sunny, White and BBDO, McCann, like whatever, that we are still considered in those areas, or that we are considered in those areas because we have access, knowledge, insight into the consumer that drives all culture. So I think that is ultimate success for us.
And you know what? Hopefully they'll hear it from you because I've been beating that drum for a while and I don't know if it's making an impact. Maybe I need to add a cowbell or something.
I think that there's a recognition culturally that Black people are a lot of times the spark, right? I think that when we've done a lot of work, and we've done a lot of work with Nielsen, and it's like 70% of 70-something%, I'm going to get the numbers totally wrong, of white people and 60-something% of Hispanic, Hispanics think that Black culture drives all culture. So I don't think there's a lack of recognition of that. Mm-hmm. I think that's why a lot of agencies are hiring 2-3 Black people and kind of putting them in key positions, and then are like, okay, look, we're multicultural. But I think that what is happening is that as agencies, we also need to do the work, right? It's not just about having Black people in our ranks. We do. It's not just about being Black owned. We are. It is also about having the research, the data, the insight into us, as well as our impact. And then in the piece that I think that often, and I've worked in Black owned companies, I've worked in, I guess, white owned companies. And the difference that I have seen is the pursuit of operational excellence. I think that sometimes we don't always make it, and this is, people are gonna get pissed, but we don't always make it easy to work with us. That we have phenomenal ideas, we have phenomenal thinking, but then when it comes to the mechanics of like getting the work done, that pursuit of brilliance isn't always there. And so I want to build Burrell into a company that strives for creative brilliance as well as executional and operational brilliance. And I think that when we get to that point, it will, no one will be able to beat us.
I'm rooting for you. I can't wait to see what you do. I think it's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
I'm inspired just listening to you and seeing where you're going to take this legacy company and what the future legacy is going to look like. Oh, it's going to be good. I'm super pumped. Before I let you go,
Thank you.
We have to talk about this beautiful background behind you. Please tell me one. It is gorgeous.
So I'm from New York. I think I mentioned that. And I spent the bulk of my life before moving to LA in Brooklyn. Okay. And so if you ask me where I'm from, I would say I'm from Brooklyn. My kids were born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn girl. And so I wanted to, in my LA home, to have a little bit of that New York, Brooklyn vibe. And so who better than Basquiat? And I have a phenomenal friend who helped me with design of the home, and she found this wallpaper, and we were like, we have it. So it's not a background; it is actually a wallpaper. And
no, they don't green screen the curls that way. I knew it was real. I knew it was real.
Yes, and so it is Basquiat, and I'm a little bit of a Basquiat freak, although I have not gotten to the level of being able to own one. So I just have the wallpaper.
You're going to get there. I can tell.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for coming on Black Tea. It has been such a joy to get to know you, hear a little bit about your story. And I cannot wait for people to see this and get to know you as well. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I have watched Black Tea for the longest time, and so I am very excited to actually be on it. I have a friend who was a guest in the early days, and I'm just like, how the hell did you get to be a guest? I haven't ever been asked to be a guest, so I am actually very honored to be here. Thank you.
Yay, I'm so excited. That's very flattering. Do you hear that, everybody? Cara DeVoe watches us all the time.
Yes.
If you want to watch us all the time, please go to musebykleyo.com/blacktea. Catch up on all the other episodes, including this one. Make sure you're following us on Instagram too, @sipblacktea. That's where you'll find out about all the latest episodes before they drop. So thank y'all so much for joining. That does it for this episode, and we will see you next time. Bye.